Get your stuff and get out. That's what evacuees were told Saturday afternoon as the McKinley fire sparked up, spreading with the wind, putting homes in the line of fire.
People were screaming in the streets, and they were telling us, everybody was saying, get out, get out.
I was going to go get water on the highway, and I started to go down the Hidden Hills Road and saw the smoke. Knew something was definitely wrong.
You can see it's smoky conditions. We are at Willow Fishhook Road, where it is still closed, obviously. You can see there's a line of cars waiting to get in. We know there's active flames right now. We also know that there are structures that have burned.
Evacuations of people and animals. 50 or more buildings have burned in a fast-moving wildfire in the Susitna Valley north of Willow, and drivers have been watching the blaze burning while sitting in their cars. First, let's go north to Grant Robinson. Grant, what have you learned today?
Well, Rebecca, the McKinley fire is still actively burning, and right now the Division of Forestry says it surpassed 3,000 acres. Now, as for the number of buildings it's burned, they're still saying about 50 buildings. That's the same number from yesterday if you were watching yesterday or were online. They haven't updated that number because they haven't been able to complete a damage assessment.
In the MATSU Valley, new incident management teams are taking over control of the McKinley fire burning near Caswell Lakes.
Channel 2's Grant Robinson has the latest on this fire from the Division of Forestry headquarters in Palmer. Grant?
Well, Mike, Rebecca, the numbers the Division of Forestry is still sticking with for right now is 3,000 acres burned, just over 3,000 acres burned, and at least 50 buildings burned. But what's happening right now is a Type 2 incident management team is taking over control of this fire. And with that, that means 10 hotshot crews are either on the scene already or are en route, along with 2 retardant dropping tankers, as well as 4 water scooping aircraft. Now, evacuations are in place from milepost 82 to 91 on the Parks Highway, and a pilot car is escorting traffic on a longer stretch of that road.
Fire officials have called in help from the lower 48.
We really do need the help. This is an unprecedented event.
At the Division of Forestry building in Palmer, firefighters pack their bags to hit blazes threatening large swaths of South Central.
Seeing these fires from the airs really makes it easier to understand how much the fire behavior has changed since this weekend. Now, right now, both of these fires are growing at much slower paces. Fire leaders said they had little growth yesterday and overnight.
The Matsu Borough making an emergency declaration asking for state resources to contain the fires burning homes and property along the Parks Highway.
Borough Mayor Vern Halter addressed a room packed with concerned residents in Willow earlier today, saying the danger is not over.
We're notifying the governor that we want the governor to declare an emergency and to start freeing up federal assistance, federal money.
Tonight, we are getting our first close-up look at the damage caused by the McKinley fire near Willow.
We could see smoke on both sides of the highway, very close to the road, billowing up in small pockets. Then once we got closer to Caswell, we could start to see the damage from this fire. The main building at Caswell Supply is gone. A few others on the property were also burned, while others seem to be spared. And that's another thing that we saw along this drive. Parts of property can be completely burned, while others seem to be untouched.
It's now been determined that 3 of the major fires burning in South Central were not caused naturally. That's according to a report from the Alaska Interagency Coordination Center.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, here's the count tonight, and it is not good. 51 homes, 3 businesses, and approximately 80 outbuildings.
That is the destruction of the McKinley fire so far. Now, today, the Matsu Borough officially notified people about their destroyed property.
They definitely feel for us. We went in there, we sat down. He showed me the pictures. You could tell he was even hesitant to show me just because it is devastating to see. You see everything you own just gone. Just gone.
It is a trip. And it's like, wow.
Miraculously, their home's still standing, while everything else around charred and smoldering.
And we know the people down there, we know people who have lost their stuff, so. In this subdivision, very few people are still have their places.
The anxiety of Sunday night into Monday morning was tremendous. It was gut-wrenching.
Randall Sparks lives in the same area as Patty, around mile marker 91 on the Parks Highway. When he learned his home burned down, he directed his attention to volunteering at the Upper Susitna Senior Center in Talkeetna.
I just decided at that point that accept the fate, We got busy back here.
Happening now at Willow Elementary School, a community meeting is taking place about the McKinley fire. Let's take a look. Right now, that fire has burned 3,753 acres so far. It is only 10% contained.
Origin for the McKinley fire remains under investigation. When you see, though, what Chris HINES saw, you'll see just how easily it can happen.
We've seen what the McKinley fire grew into. Roaring flames, heartbreaking loss, everyone thankful no one was hurt. But what about the fire's early beginnings? Late Saturday afternoon, as winds blew through the area's unrelenting dry conditions, Chris HINES thinks he may have stumbled across them.
And I happened upon a tree that had knocked a power line down onto the ground. And when I first arrived, the fire was just smoldering there at the line, right at the ground there, and it was smoking.
He snapped a picture. Then, with the line broken and arcing, backed away.
And then right after I got off the phone with 911 is when I took that picture of it flaring up on a tree, and that's kind of when the fire really got going.
Do you think that that's the power line that kind of ignited the bigger fire, or just one of many that contributed?
You know, I'm no investigator, so I can't tell you. I can say that right after I called 911 and after I noticed that the fire was burning in that spot, that's when the helicopter showed up and they started dropping water on it, and that's 45 minutes later the police evacuated us, and then that's when the McKinley fire started.
Help is on the way for homeowners and businesses impacted by recent fires in South Central Alaska. That was the message from Governor Dunleavy here in Palmer today. Dropping into the Palmer Airport after a tour of the McKinley and Deshka Landing fires.
It's pretty evident from the air that there was a lot of damage on both sides of the highway, and it's all about Alaskans pulling together. So we're going to keep working on this.
Very similar to the earthquake, it's going to be 34,900 of state assistance. And what we need now is more data coming from the field, but we're going to get folks out to see exactly what is going on so we can get the help out in the communities that is needed.
The Morning Edition's Sammy Selena brings us the story of one business owner who had to pack up and get out last week.
They returned back to their property on Monday and are now looking to the future.
It's easier than ever to hear the wind blowing through the trees at the MATSU RV park. Everyone is still gone after they evacuated from the McKinley fire. Everyone except for the owner.
We would just be greeting guests, checking them in, visiting with them, doing maintenance around the property.
Those were the chores Colin and his mother were in charge of until the fire drew closer.
Like at the end of the road right there.
They thought the breeze was working in their favor.
Just didn't really give it any more thought, plus the wind was still pushing straight south.
And then it shifted.
Oh no, this is not good. Fire here in the front. It's coming through the back. It might be our last video of the place.
If only the rain fell sooner. Then Al Fisher might not be living in a campsite.
Well, I've got an 8x14 tent in this 12x14 awning, which a neighbor referred to as a redneck man cave because I have a recliner in it.
Not much for entertainment here, which is fine for Al because when the rain lets up, it's back to work.
Oh. It was quiet and peaceful. It kind of looks like a war zone now.
Missing his home of 40 years, his dog of 13.
When the last time I saw her, she was underneath the house. There was like firemen all around the house, and she was freaking out. She was on her last legs, so.
His cars, his beloved tools.
Well, after losing everything, many families in the MATSU are working to begin recovery from the McKinley fire. Channel 2's Hank Davis was there today and brings us the story.
Right now, donations from the surrounding communities are plentiful, but some things just can't be replaced.
There's a tote with a bunch of pictures in it. I wish we would have grabbed that just because my papa died, and I had pictures of him in it.
For KYLIE Roberts and her family, recovery mode is the new normal. They were able to escape the McKinley fire with their pets, which include 5 dogs and dozens of chickens, but everything that they had to leave behind is gone. This is a common sight here in Willow. Property along the Parks Highway burned up by the McKinley fire and countless neighborhoods looking to recover. But today I met with residents of Falcons Ridge. Their efforts to come together in a time of emergency have them telling a much different story.
I started getting stories of a couple of guys who I think went above and beyond the call to stem the tide until the fire department was able to come.
Falcons Ridge is home to about 30 cabins, some full-time residences, some vacation or weekend homes. But when the McKinley fire jumped the Parks Highway last month, a small group of 4 residents leaped into action, assisting the already exhausted firefighters battling the blaze.
I remember just taking the shovel and using the back of the shovel just to pat down the burning as it was burning in the forest. It'd be a forest like what's behind us here.
With winter just around the corner, victims of the McKinley fire are using what resources they have to build shelter for the cold months. And what they can't do on their own, their neighbors pick up the slack. Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer has this story.
Imagine wanting something so badly.
We had a trailer just sitting here vacant, and we just want to bless somebody and give it to somebody who needs it.
That you're willing to give up a piece of your life.
My wife grew up in it. When we got married, we moved into it and lived in it for a few years, and now we're working on getting ourselves our own home.
David and Holly Dunley giving a home to a family still recovering from a traumatic loss.
We're trying to help somebody that lost everything.
Yesterday, we brought you a story of a family receiving the gift of a new home after losing theirs to the McKinley fire. But that's just one of the countless acts of kindness in the wake of the fire. Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer met up with volunteers who were helping victims rebuild with winter just around the corner. He brings us this story.
This could have just as easily been us. So we want to make sure we do what we can.
The days are getting shorter and the nights colder in Alaska. Rush, rush to beat winter as it makes its way down the mountains. Along the park's highway, scorched earth, remnants of the McKinley fire.
If you look around, it kind of answers the question of why we're here. So it's pretty devastating.
Those lucky enough to have dodged the flames, helping victims prepare for what comes next.
These are what I was given when I was born, in my father's watches and my father's stuff. This is all that's left of my memories out of the house. You know, family heirlooms that of grandparents and parents that are no longer with us anymore.
In slightly better condition, a ring belonging to David's late wife, who passed after a battle with cancer. Her ashes disappeared with the fire.
A lot of the stuff we won't be able to fix or replace, but this, I'm hoping that at least we could have a little something. We'll just take this and clean it up, and maybe we can smile and look at it and, you know, think positive.
But despite the many twists and turns and losing their home for the holidays and the regular days too, they're pushing on.
I know that in a drop of a dime that I could call and have people willing, when and if we get the material, you know, they will be here to help, and we will rebuild.
We ain't going somewhere else. You know, we're staying in this area here. We're gonna rebuild here. It's gonna take a while before it looks the same and a lot of work, but you know, we're up to it.
Finding ways to stay warm can be tough and expensive for many families who lost their homes to the McKinley fire this past summer. And the Christmas spirit can be hard to come by. Recovering takes money and resources that might otherwise go towards the holidays. Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer spoke with some of these families today who happen to have a Christmas angel looking over them this year.
Sort of like Santa and his elves, Karen Wilson and her granddaughter MK are busy performing Christmas miracles.
About midway back has Christmas decorations. Yep, that's it.
Loading up Christmas decorations for delivery to victims of the McKinley fire.
But a lot of them they're just trying to stay warm, so they're not even thinking about Christmas. So I'm hoping getting a little tree with decorations kind of brighten them up.
I know right where to put this.
You put it with your tree.
Yeah. Karen's like an angel. She's helped a lot of us here. Made quite a difference.
And stocking. Here you go. Have fun decorating, okay? Merry Christmas, you guys.
It's kind of like the first time that someone helped us and this and that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Having someone smile that lost so much it's very warming, and it brings a lot of joy to me to see that, you know, we've helped them.